Today we're going to rank every negative priority move that existed over the generations. While generally not as useful as the moves we covered in our last ranking video, there are still a few very good and commonly seen moves that have the trait of always moving last. A bunch of you commented wanting to see this list, so I will oblige while noting these moves were really hard to rank. We're going to be ranking them on their usefulness competitively, considering their impact in singles and doubles. Although, most of these moves' competitive use is seen in singles, so this video will be skewed more that way. Let's get into it. We are actually going to start off with a dishonorable mention, or mentions. This is for the moves Magic Room and Wonder Room. These are counterparts of Trick Room, a move we will be seeing later in this list, and were added in Generation 5. They had -7 priority like Trick Room and had their own unique field effects that would last for 5 turns. Wonder Room swaps the defense and special defense of all Pokemon, while Magic Room suppresses the effect of all held items. Definitely not nearly as useful as Trick Room, and even Pokemon can see this. These moves would never even be glanced upon competitively, and likely very few people would ever use them in a playthrough, especially considering most NPCs lack held items, so you would only be crippling yourself. Come Generation 6, these moves had 0 priority and are still never seen. Maybe there could be a niche for them if they had increased priority instead. I don't know, but I thought I'd at least mention them since they were once upon a time negative priority moves. On to the first real entry, coming in at number 14, we have Vital Throw. Vital Throw sits at the bottom of this list pretty much as the only negative priority move that doesn't have any real benefit for going last. Sure, it doesn't check accuracy, but there are a lot of moves that do that while not making you take a hit first. At 70 base power, it is also not a great option for fighting stab, as there are plenty of stronger moves and moves with great secondary effects. It's been outclassed since its release in Generation 2 by so many moves that I honestly forget it exists. And as of Generation 9, it isn't able to be used, so it might as well not exist. On to spot 13, we see Shell Trap, the signature move of everyone's 13th favorite turtle-based Pokemon, Turtonator. Power-wise, this move is near the top of the list at 150 base power. Usefulness-wise, this move is way down here. It wouldn't be so bad if just having -3 priority was the only downside this move had, since Turtonator is already likely to go last with that low speed stat. The setting of the trap happens first, but you have to be hit with a physical attack within the same turn you use this move for it to even work, or else it just fails. This means you might surprise your opponent once with this move and then have a really hard time getting it to work again. It also can't be used as a last ditch effort to get damage, as it will fail if you take enough damage to faint. At spot 12, we have our first decent move in Revenge. Well, maybe not decent competitively, but actually a pretty good move when comparing it to the previous two. At -4 priority, this fighting type move has 60 base power, but it has an additional effect of doubling to 120 base power if the target has already damaged a user in the same turn. That's actually pretty solid power, and this move isn't too far off from being viable. Sure, the negative priority makes sense with the additional effect, but if it wasn't a negative priority move and was distributed on certain mons, it may see some niche use on technician users who want some fighting coverage. But otherwise, it just suffers from being on a type that has so many strong physical attacks that overshadow it. In the 11th position, we have Toucanon's signature move, Beak Blast. At -3 priority and 100 base power, this move is similar to Shell Trap in that it actually starts up like a priority move and attacks after. Toucanon heats up its beak before attacking, and any mon who makes direct contact before this move attacks will be burned. What makes this move a lot better than Shell Trap is this move will still work even if Toucanon isn't hit, while also being usable to get a burn off against a faster attacker before fainting. I think it's actually a pretty good move, but it's just not on the right mon. Toucanon would rather run the stronger Brave Bird, which doesn't force you to move last. If it was on a bulky, slow Pokemon who could afford to take those physical hits, I think it would be seen quite often, as you could be a blanket check to most physical attackers. But for now, it will sit here on the lower half of the list. Now we're entering the top 10 a lot faster than on the other priority moves list, but the quality of the moves definitely isn't getting as good. In spot 10 we have Avalanche. At -4 priority, it's essentially an ice type version of Revenge. It's a few spots higher due to the ice type historically lacking strong physical moves, so this move was a staple in the Avalugg line for Ice Tab, and is pretty decent in game. It's generally outclassed by Ice Punch and Icicle Crash, but slow mons can run this move to get a surprisingly strong hit off. Still a lackluster move that you rarely see competitively, but the ice type's pretty good offensively. In the 9th position, we have Circle Throw. It's a -6 priority phasing move with 60 base power. If this move hits, it will force the target to switch into a random teammate. The effect doesn't work if the target is behind a substitute, if the user faints due to taking damage upon contact, or if the target has the ability Suction Cups or is under the effect of Ingrain. It still is a solid move, but isn't seen too often. There are some solid users though. I used to love running it on Throw using a Rest Sleep Talk set. This was also seen on Poliwrath as well. You can rack up hazard damage from causing switches, prevent opposing setup, and if called by Sleep Talk, this move can be used at normal priority, which can prevent the opponent from having their turn. Aside from Throw and Poliwrath, this move has a new common user in Spite-Ops who terrorizes the ZU tier by setting up hazards and phasing the opposition, making them suffer residual damage until they manage to break through its formidable defenses. This alone cements its spot in 9th. Just above Circle Throw in 8th place, we see Focus Punch. It's a -3 priority fighting move that has an outrageously strong 150 base power. The stinky part of this move is that the user will tighten their focus at the beginning of the turn, and if they are hit by a damaging attack during the turn, the user will lose their focus and the move will fail to execute. Let's be honest, this move's ranking is mostly carried by Breloom. Its sub-Focus Punch sets have been deadly in many generations. It's very common to see this move paired with Substitute to avoid being hit during the turn and having this move fail. So if you can buy a turn or force a switch and get a sub up, it can potentially be a very useful move. It's not too commonly seen nowadays. You would see it on a Gen 3 Metachamp sometimes, and now it's used in Little Cup on Abra with the lack of hidden power fighting to use. Coming in at 7th is the move Mirror Coat, a -5 priority move that doubles damage the user has taking that turn from a special move and inflicts it upon the attacking mon. This move can be used to bait a strong attacker to inflict a considerable chunk of damage with the goal of OHKOing it in return. It's been seen occasionally throughout the generations on bulky Pokemon like Credilli, Deoxys, Araquanid, Melodic, and who could forget its most notable user, Wobbuffet. It is usually a surprise move on these users and has to be executed at the right time to not give up the surprise factor. On mons with recovery, it can potentially be used multiple times, but usually you'll be happy to get your 1 KO with it and take that as a win. Just above Mirror Coat in 6th, we have the physical counterpart, Counter. And I'm just realizing now that almost a third of the negative priority moves are fighting type. But Counter is the OG negative priority move. Now at -5 priority, Counter works by taking a physical attack and doubling the damage received and inflicting it upon the target. This will only work if hit by a physical move during that turn. It can be a pretty solid surprise factor move to nab a cheeky KO. Since this move has very wide distribution, it can be teched onto pretty much any mon who gets it. But it's mostly useful on bulky mons with high HP and Focus Sash users. It's not as popular in recent gens, but had a handful of effective users in early generations. These include mons like Blissey, Clefable, Deoxys, and once again the best user, Shadowtag Wobbuffet, who's usually able to nab at least one knockout with Counter. It can be hard to make it useful more than once in a match, as you will have to take a big chunk of damage to nab a KO, but the 1 KO you get with this move will usually be an important one. I have it slightly above Mirror Coat since it has had more effective users competitively over the generations, and there being generally more physical attackers to take advantage of this move. Moving on to the top 5, we have pretty much the only commonly used competitive moves. And the next few are only good, but not great competitively, as they are seen, but not moves you will really see on every team. In 5th place, we have Dragon Tail. This -6 priority move has 60 base power and is a Dragon type variation of Circle Throw. A Pokemon hit by this move will be forced to switch out and a random teammate will be switched in. The reason it's so much higher than Circle Throw is thanks to its users. It has a lot more viable users and is actually not uncommon to see. It is a pretty popular move in Ubers, with a bunch of legendary dragon types using it to grab hazard damage and foil setup, which is common in the tier. Mons like Giratina, Lugia, Dialga, and Zygarde have commonly run it, and it has seen use in multiple other tiers throughout the generations on mons like Slowking, Druddigon, Steelix, Licky, and Electros. The amount of viable users that make room for this move skyrockets it up to the top 5 on this list, as it is a serviceable move. Getting chip damage that is often stab boosted and messing with your opponent's game plan can be very valuable momentum wise, especially if you are chipping them down with hazards and status. Coming in at the 4th and 3rd positions, we have Roar and Whirlwind. These are the last two phasing moves on the list. They both have -6 priority and force the target to switch into a random teammate. The difference between these moves and Circle Throw and Dragon Tail is the reliability. While they don't cause damage, they also don't have the mischance Circle Throw and Dragon Tail have. They don't have types immune to them as well, and boast the ability to hit through Substitute. This lets defensive Pokemon more effectively deter setup and spread hazard and status damage. You see Whirlwind as an alternative on some of the Dragon Tail users like Yu-Gi-Oh, who tends to prefer its reliability. Other common users of Whirlwind would be Ho-Oh, Skarmory, Hippowdon, Ting-Lu, and Grumpig. While notable users of Roar include Arcanine, Dialga, Donphan, Steelix, Avalugg, Solgaleo, and Articuno. So you see a lot of overlap with these users, and some mons get multiple phasing moves, and if you wanted to use a phaser, it just comes down to which move they have access to, and if you want a more reliable move, or an attack that phases. These moves do have some flaws that Dragon Tail and Circle Throw don't. While their phasing effects are all blocked by Suction Cups, you will still get damage out of them with the attacking moves. Roar and Whirlwind are also bounced back by the ability Magic Bounce and the move Magic Coat. The reason I have Whirlwind above Roar is because even though they are essentially the same move, Whirlwind is slightly more reliable as Roar is also blocked by the Soundproof ability, which definitely isn't the most common ability, but if you ever needed the phase that Screen Setting Electrode or Sub Belly Drum Como, Whirlwind is your best bet. Now on to the top 2 moves. These are the moves that actually have been really good competitively, and even though they aren't seen on every team and aren't always game breakers, they're still really great and have made a big impact. In the 2nd spot, taking home the silver medal, we have Teleport. This -6 priority move was pretty much just annoying and useless, besides its field effect, until Generation 7. It was changed in the Let's Go spin-off games to actually have an effect in trainer battles. What it does now is act as a pivot move like a dry baton pass. Imagine that, something good coming out of those games. Wow. But the negative priority is what makes it so great. Unlike Baton Pass, U-Turn, Volt Switch, and Flip Turn, Teleport can guarantee a safe switch-in for your replacement mon. Competitive singles players quickly caught on to this and started using it to gain switch initiative, making it one of the best momentum moves in the game. Your opponent could attack or switch, and you would safely teleport after, thus choosing the best matchup. You could opt for your Pokemon to take a hit and then teleport into your heavy hitter so they don't have to take damage by hard switching or possibly outspeeding with another pivot move. Mons like Clefable, Clefairy, and Wigglytuff could safely pass wishes by using teleport and more reliably keep their teammates healthy. Mons like Xatu, Arcanine, Porygon 2, and Magnezone would use it to either swap into frailer wall breakers safely, or in Magnezone's case, still be able to pivot against ground types that blocked its Volt Switch. My favorite and the most effective use of Teleport, however, was in combination with the move Future Sight. The Slow Twins, who had access to both these moves, would Future Sight and then use Teleport the following turn. They would be able to pivot safely into a hard-hitting physical attacker, usually a fighting type, and force a KO with 2 strong attacks coming from each side in one turn. Dark types that absorb Future Sight would get smacked by a fighting move, and not many other mons would be able to take those 2 hits in the same turn. It became a good strategy to break through teams, and with the Slow Twins Regenerator ability, it could be done multiple times a game. This move also gave base Solgaleo a small niche in Ubers, as it had the combination of Teleport and Future Sight, which could line up 2 strong hits while allowing Solgaleo to escape any trapping attempts from Dugtrio or Magnezone. Overall, this move has had a pretty solid impact competitively since its buff. But unfortunately, distribution in Generation 9 has been severely cut, so we don't really get to see it now, besides on Deoxys and Solgaleo, who can still be effective users. In the first spot, we have pretty much the main move people think about when negative priority comes up. Well, maybe they think of counter right away, but competitive players will think of this move. It's none other than Trick Room. At -7 priority, Trick Room has the lowest priority of any move in the game. It twists the dimensions for 5 turns, reversing the move order within each priority bracket, causing slower Pokemon to attack first. Trick Room is the only move on this list that has a vital role in doubles. It is good in singles too, and really cool as it allows not so common Pokemon to be used and show off their strength. Trick Room teams are absolutely terrifying to face if you aren't prepared to deal with them. They don't need to worry about spending EVs and speed since they want to be slower. This in turn makes them harder to knock out and gives them the opportunity to either set up boosts or just dish out heavy attacks and take out multiple mons. It is common to have a few Trick Room users on a team, and there are so many viable users, meaning you aren't too limited with your selections. These include mons like Indeedee, Hatterene, Armarouge, Cresselia, Gothitelle, Farigiraf, Dusclops, Calyrex Ice, Porygon 2, and Oranguru in doubles. And in singles, you will see a lot of different Trick Room users depending on the tier and if there are good Trick Room abusers in it. Some other good setters would be Diancie, Bronzong, Carbink, Chimecho, Jirachi, Magearna, Mesprit, Uxie, Spiritomb, Mew, Reuniclus, any slow twin variation. Really a good chunk of mons that get access to this are bulky enough to use it, while a lot are nice and slow to be able to abuse it. What's your favorite Trick Room mon to use? I would say mine is Spiritomb after using it in Draft League with Pain Split, letting me set up multiple Trick Rooms in one game. This move has more influence than any other move on this list, so I think it deserves to be in this top spot. What do you think? Leave your list in the comments, and don't forget to become a bud and hit that sub. If you haven't checked out my rankings of best priority moves, go ahead and click here to watch it.